So let's dive into a really powerful idea from a sermon by Reverend Paulette Mupuma Banim. What if faith isn't just something you have, but something you actually do? What if it's not some final destination, but a demanding, lifelong race? Let's break it down. The whole sermon really hinges on this one incredible metaphor from the book of Hebrews. It's a challenge, really. It asks us to see our faith not as just this one-time decision, but as a grueling, long-distance race that demands constant, daily endurance. Okay, so what does that even mean, the race of faith? Well, the sermon explains it as this unique path that's set out for every single believer. It's a journey. It's going to demand patience through all kinds of challenges. And most of all, it requires constant forward motion. This is not a sprint. It's a marathon for your whole life. Now, if we're all supposed to be running this race, why does it so often feel like we're just running through mud? Why do we stumble or feel so weighed down? The sermon points to one big obstacle, this core flaw that acts like a heavy anchor holding us back. And that obstacle is pride. The sermon basically identifies pride as the main villain in our spiritual race. And to show just how destructive it can be, it turns to the story of one of the most famous figures in the Bible. So at the center of this cautionary tale, we've got Peter. We all know Peter. He was bold, loyal, super passionate. But the sermon argues that it's that exact boldness, when it's fueled by pride, that sets him up for his biggest failure. And right here, you see this unbelievable contrast. On one side, you've got Peter's confident promise, totally rooted in his own strength, his own self-reliance. But on the other side, you have Jesus predicting the complete and total collapse of that strength. The sermon makes it clear, this wasn't just about predicting the future. It was a diagnosis of Peter's pride in that very moment. Now, this is a fascinating little detail the sermon points out. The rooster. Why a rooster? Was that just random? The speaker argues, no way. A rooster is a naturally proud animal, right? Always puffed up. It was chosen on purpose to be a living, crowing symbol of the very pride that led to Peter's downfall. So the really crucial takeaway here is this. The sermon says pride is way more than just being arrogant. It's the root of why we get offended. It's what makes us rely on our own strength instead of God's. It even puts us in rebellion. And when it comes to this race we're running, it is the single heaviest weight we could possibly carry. All right, so if pride is the anchor weighing us down, how in the world do we cut the chain? Well, the sermon argues that the antidote is found in a single, really radical instruction that Jesus gave right before his death. And the sermon puts a huge emphasis on this word, command. This isn't framed as, a gentle suggestion or a helpful tip. It's presented as a non-negotiable order, a core instruction for every single runner in this race. And here it is. It sounds simple enough, but the sermon points out that the standard is just impossibly high, as I have loved you. This is a call to a selfless, unconditional love that is the absolute polar opposite of self-centered pride. And this just perfectly illustrates the depth of that love. The sermon highlights that Jesus actually shared his bread with Judas, which was a sign of deep affection, and loved him to the end, knowing full well the betrayal that was just moments away. This is the standard. It's a love that doesn't depend on what the other person does at all. So a command to love is one thing, but what does it actually look like in the mess of our daily lives? For that, the sermon turns to the book of Romans, for what's basically a practical, actionable checklist. And if you look at these, they're the total opposite of pride's natural instincts. Pride tells us to hold a grudge, to get revenge. This command says to actively bless those who persecute you. Pride isolates us in our own world. This command says to truly rejoice with those who rejoice and mourn with those who mourn, to actually enter into their experience. Every one of these is a practical step in choosing to overcome evil with good. And that's how you drop the weight of pride. Okay, so let's bring it all together. We have the race of faith, the heavy weight of pride, and the command to love as the antidote. How do these pieces fit together to help us actually run with endurance? The core argument is pretty straightforward. Practicing this kind of selfless act of love is how you lay aside every weight. It frees you from the burden of being offended, from bitterness, from self-reliance. It lets you run with endurance because you're not tangled up in all the things that so easily trip us up. Okay, so we're running lighter, which is great, but a marathon is long. It is so easy to get distracted or just lose sight of the goal.
Where should a runner in this race of faith be looking? And this is where the sermon wraps it all up. It directs our focus to a single point: Jesus. He's presented as both the starter and the finisher of our faith. He's the one who calls us to the starting line, and he is the one waiting for us at the finish line, perfecting our faith every single step of the way.
And that leaves us with the sermon's central challenge. Is faith just a belief we hold in our minds, or is it an active race we run with our lives? A daily pursuit that demands endurance, focus, and a heart set free from the dead weight of pride.